and uphold the Constitution while protecting the rights and freedoms of every Kenyan. 4 years down the line, the government introduced new tax measures, expanded statutory deductions, implemented changes to public finance management, and undertook toxic borrowing to finance government programs. It also introduced reforms affecting public institutions and the administration of government. Instead of easing the financial burden on citizens, the tax burden has increased significantly. Households have experienced reduced disposable income while facing higher prices for food, fuel, electricity, and other basic commodities. On the debt management, why is this regime in open violation of Article 211 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and Section 15(2)(c) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 that strictly prohibits the financing of recurrent expenditure using debt? Looking back, we know that the Grand Coalition government borrowed an average of 200 billion shillings annually. The Jubilee government of Uhuru Kenyatta borrowed an average of 700 billion shillings annually. This regime of William Ruto borrows an average of 1.4 trillion annually with no corresponding development. Since August 2022, Kenya's debt growth has entered a dangerous pattern of continuous triple-digit or near triple-digit expansions. As we speak today, every citizen of Kenya and every child born as of this morning has a debt of Kenya shillings 221,000. This country has a debt of 13.02 trillion, up from Kenya shillings 8.6 trillion in August 2022 when William took over. Mr. William Ruto has borrowed in excess of 5 trillion over the last 4 years. This regime on a borrowing spree borrows an average of 3.5 billion Kenya shillings daily and steals 3 billion shillings daily. Why borrow to steal? On average, this government steals from the people of Kenya 125 million shillings every hour. Calculated, ladies and gentlemen, measured against the promise to lower the cost of living, improve access to affordable credit, and strengthen small businesses. The evidence presented suggests that many Kenyans have yet to experience the relief that was promised. Mr. William Ruto made an ambitious commitment to the people of Kenya. The promise was to place young people at the center of Kenya's economic transformation and restore hope to millions of young people seeking meaningful work. The population of Kenya is 75% youthful. The African Union has long urged African countries to harness this demographic dividend by investing in young people. It is therefore fitting that we assess one of the administration's flagship commitments, expanding credit opportunities to Kenyans' youth. The Kenya Kwanza administration promised to establish a 50 billion hustler fund to provide affordable credit to mama mboga, boda operators, mkokoteni operators, and other small-scale entrepreneurs. This commitment was to ease financial constraints, promote enterprise, and improve the livelihoods of ordinary Kenyans. Mr. William Ruto established the Hustler Fund, whose head and tail cannot be traced. As it were, the financing programs intended to support micro, small, and medium enterprises. The Hustler Fund is said to have disbursed 87 billion Kenya shillings to 28 million people. What a paradox. What a lie. I am wed to hear of any one Kenyan saying that they have expanded their business courtesy of the Hustler Fund. Limiting the disbursement of funds to registered cooperatives would have probably made a greater economic impact and would have reduced the mobile loan default rate that is very high. I have raised fundamental questions on the effectiveness of the Hustler Fund in meeting its stated objectives. The truth of the matter is the high rate of loan defaults and low loan disbursements, in many instances 500 shillings, are insufficient to establish or grow a sustainable business venture anywhere in the country. This is simply a lost cause and was a fraud. 4 years ago, Kenyan women were promised dignity, economic empowerment, and their welfare. 4 years later, the women continue to experience economic hardships, occasioned by a high cost of living, increased medical and education costs, and an unsustainable credit framework under the Hustler Fund and Women Enterprise Fund. The discontinuation of projects such as Linda Mama and Edu Afia have increased the cost of accessing healthcare and education services to women and their families. Mr. William Ruto has ignored Justice John Mativo's 2017 ruling and the former Chief Justice Maraga 2020 advisory to entitle a legislative framework and implement the 2/3 Jeta rule despite having a parliamentary majority. Patriotic Kenyans, the Kenya Kwanza commitment was to turn the housing challenge into an economic opportunity. They promised to build 250,000 houses every year. This was a promise. However, 4 years later, Mr. Ruto has fashioned and turned this into a conduit to steal public land and be the sole supplier of construction inputs, cement, steel, tiles, nails, and MDF panels that manufactures factories he has bought and acquired. The Affordable Housing Fund has collected over $1 billion since its inception. The State Department of Housing and Urban Development has conveniently ensured a low absorption rate of roughly 25% due to the staggered nature of construction phases and investments of proceeds in treasury bills, boards through CDN Bank. CDN Bank is today classified as Tier 2 medium-sized bank. It has graduated from Tier 3 status after achieving a market share of over 1% driven by deposits mobilized from Government of Kenya State Corporations, Social Health Authority, Nairobi City County Government, and the Affordable Housing Fund levies. CDN Bank is worth 95 billion in asset value, Kenya shillings 74 billion in customer deposit, and a reported 1.7 billion net profit in the year ending 2025. Compare this sudden change in fortunes with the 2022 financial year results. This bank had 42 billion Kenya shillings in assets, 30 billion in customer deposit, and a reported loss in the financial year ending 2022. Since William Ruto bought it, you can see the transformation. This housing scheme is nothing but a personal business that guarantees the exclusive single source offtake of steel, MDF panels, nails, iron sheets, tiles, cement by factories owned by William Ruto and his allies. The levy proceeds are the reason why CDN Bank deposits have increased tenfold for the 4 years. If it were a genuine program, why is it being forced down citizens' throat? There was no promise to raise the payslip of the Kenyan worker in the name of a punitive housing levy. Private businesses must be left to do their work as the government does its work. It's important that the workers of Kenya know that monies deducted from their payslip is invested in CDN Bank owned by William Ruto, who is collecting the profit. In my view, and as expressed before, the affordable housing scheme should be made optional to Kenyans to allow them to participate at their own free will. Fellow Kenyans, Mr. William Ruto had promised that within 30 days of his presidency, he would establish a quasi-judicial public inquiry to establish the extent of cronyism and state capture in the nation and make recommendations. Unfortunately, over the last 4 years, Mr. William Ruto himself has captured the state. He has focused on centralizing control of independent constitutional commissions, state entities, public sector procurement, and unwarranted sale of strategic national assets. All these measures are aimed at achieving the sole objective of enriching William Ruto at the expense of 55 million Kenyans. It should be noted that William Ruto has achieved the milestone of being certified as a US dollars billionaire in a record 4-year courtesy of looting Kenyan public coffers. Mr. William Ruto's 4 years in office has accomplished a mission of driving Kenyan entrepreneurs out of business. Contractors are out of business. Traders are out of business. William Ruto has captured all businesses and he is in competition with the Kenyans that he leads. He has used his office to flex muscles on traders. Where he has not pushed, his cordial CRBC has come in. Mr. William Ruto has investments in virtually every sector of Kenya's economy, namely banking and finance through CDN Bank, investment banking through Rock Investment Bank, a CMA license issued in 2026, and is the fund manager of NSSF and PSSF pension funds, insurance through Amaco, capital markets through ZD platform, hospitality through Weston Hotel and Leeds Caraton in the Mara, cement through the various companies that he bought, including Baburi and East African Portland Cement, betting through SportsPesa, Sportbet and Betika, aviation through Kwale Island Development, healthcare through Nairobi West Hospital, telecommunication through East African Device Assembly Limited, oil and energy through Gulf Energy and oil marketing companies, energy gas through Taifa Gas, construction, farming, currency security, he has recently bought Daru, transport, he has even gone into the matatu in business. He now has over 100 matatus in Nairobi, agriculture, poultry, minerals, gold prospecting in Aboseli, Logorian, Transmara, DRC, including in Darfur. Literally, all business people in Kenya have been driven out of business by William Ruto. The Parliament of Kenya has failed in its legislative oversight and representative role. Its members, except the few who hang around with me, are on record boasting how they are paid for everything that they pass in Parliament. I must remind all parliamentarians that they are accomplices to criminal acts. Under the archaic leadership of the UDA with winger Moses Wetangula, the National Assembly is one of the major causes of the suffering of Kenyans by passing bad laws like the Finance Bill 2024, whose provisions were later sneaked through amendments and omnibus legislation. Mr. William Ruto's attempt over the last 4 years to undermine the office of the Auditor General has been frantic and uncalled for. He now wants the Auditor General arrested for resisting theft of public funds. The people of Kenya will not allow it. Mr. William Ruto has made IPOA non-functional. In the last 4 years, an attempt was made through a Gazette notice to put it under the Ministry of Interior so that they can cover all the crimes against Kenyans and the police. Fortunately, our courts stopped this covert mission. Historically, IBC has been an institution under low public trust. It is in the public domain that IBC, as currently constituted, enjoys low public trust among Kenyans. The threat by the chairman Ethocon to suspend or allow by elections if there is violence is a clear indication that he is under manipulation by William Ruto. The Central Bank of Kenya is one of the most critical government institutions we have. However, through the National Assembly, the CBK Act was amended recently to allow the purchase of gold and other precious metals. This is gold bag season 2 loading. Kenyans should be alarmed that CBK has not received currency supplies from Germany for 4 months after it became apparent that the government wanted money diverted to Mombasa and the German suppliers were reluctant. We have also noted the recent changes in the ownership of Delaru, Kenya, and Kenyans are keenly watching the space to establish whether they want to print currency for bribing voters in the forthcoming general election. Allow me to give 2 practical examples of how William Ruto has captured institutions. I'll use IPOA and KWS as examples. At IPOA, we have over 1,000 cases of police excesses that have been reported over the last 4 years by the people of Kenya. Only about 10 cases have found their way to court. Mr. William Ruto has deliberately slowed down the activities of IPOA. Some few days ago, the Aboseli National Ecosystem the Aboseli National Park Ecosystem, 15 elephants died and some lions died later. We were cheated that they were died through suspected cyanide poisoning from pesticides. Tell the Kenyans the truth, Mr. William Ruto. Doing cyanide lynching to extract good prospects. And this warning goes to the people of Ikolomani in Kakamega, where Mr. William Ruto is eyeing your gold deposits. Be very careful. Again, the CS for Health issued Gazette notice number 11492 on 30th July 2026 on the mandatory inbound travel health insurance for tourists traveling to Kenya to have travel insurance in Kenya. We know the reason. This is because goons are after tourists in the country, and now they want to force an insurance policy down their throats. To demonstrate what professionals in this government feel and go through, allow me to quote Professor Njogona Ndungu, the former National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, during a development forum in Sweden. And I quote, "The capacity to do the right things exists, but is overshadowed by institutional failure, where someone seeks to overrun institutions. The current president is overrunning all institutions, leading to conformity driven by fear within these institutions," close quote. What is this if not impunity of the highest order? Patriotic Kenyans, historically, land is one of the most emotive issues in Kenya. Mr. William Ruto has promised to settle all historical land injustices in Kenya and resettle millions of squatters across the country. Unfortunately, he has scored the lowest in this matter and created many war fronts on the land question. Over the last 4 years, William Ruto and his cronies have been involved in an historic high-level grabbing of land and misuse of public lands. For instance, 2,800 acres have been grabbed by Ruto and his cronies in Kebiko, Kajiado. 6,000 acres of land in Owaso Kedwang in Suswa has been grabbed. 5,000 acres of land, Kyobo in the Masai Mara, has been grabbed. 1,000 acres of land for Puko and Limanet within Narok Township has been grabbed. Over 7,000 acres of land of Olokuto adjudication section in Narok North. Kehoto land, about 300 landowners risk being thrown out of their 700 acres of land. Davivi land in Naivasha has been grabbed by William Ruto, who has put up a home and he is growing wheat and maize in the farm. Banita settlement scheme, 14,000 acres of land have been grabbed. Olongai land, about 167,000 people are at the risk of eviction as this land is being grabbed. Egerton University land, Oscar Sudi, Samburu, and William Ruto have grabbed 2,000 acres of land meant for the university, where they are doing wheat farming. Patriotic Kenyans, health has long been one of Kenya's foremost national priorities. Building on the gains made at our Kenya Vision 2030, the Kenya Kwanza administration committed itself to delivering universal health coverage by guaranteeing every Kenyan access to affordable quality health care. The plan pledged to realize the constitutional right to health through a reformed national health insurance scheme founded on the principle of leaving no one behind. To implement this commitment, the government replaced the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, with a failed and fraudulent scheme called SHA that has left millions of Kenyans on their own. The discontinuation of Linda Mama and Edu Afia on December 31st, 2023 has left significant gaps in healthcare coverage. In 2022, Edu Afia provided medical cover to 3.4 million secondary school students at an annual cost of 3.2 billion. Today, approximately 4.1 million secondary school students no longer enjoy that medical cover, leaving parents to bear the full cost of treatment. Mr. William Ruto had committed to addressing the inequities in Kenya's education system so as to level the playing field for all children irrespective of their background. He further committed to equitable universal basic education defined as 12 years of schooling. He further committed himself to protecting and strengthening the gains made under free primary education and free day secondary education, while ensuring that every Kenyan child had access to quality, affordable, and equitable education. He also pledged to strengthen higher education financing and invest in the nation's human capital. The William Ruto government inherited landmark education reforms introduced by previous administrations. Free primary education launched in 2003, free-day secondary education introduced in 2018 that had significantly expanded access to education for millions of Kenyan children. The commitment was not only to preserve these gains, but to build upon them by ensuring adequate capitation, sustainable financing, and improved access to quality education for all. In the words of the third president of the Republic of Kenya, the best president we have ever had, Mzee Mwai Kibaki, and he said, and I quote, "Education is the ultimate means of ensuring an equitable society. Equitable education ensures that every child has a chance to fulfill their potential and rise to the highest level of accomplishment." Close quote. 4 years later, the government has caused irreparable instability and confusion in the education sector. The